Hey guys, it's Tombox. As you can see from me wearing my coat and my awesome new hair, I have totally recovered. Okay, we're pulling this mic down just so that I don't have to speak so loudly. So don't worry, it's not going to be in the way for most of the video because we're not using this layout. I'm just going to give you guys a quick little updates. Yes, I've been sick with the flu for a little bit, and I should be all better now. And my hair is like this because I missed my hair appointment. So now I got pretty crazy hair. It's really thick. Aside from that, yeah, spirals, yeah, they're really strong. Yeah, tier 0, blah 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 blah. But let's talk about how to crush spirals, because if I'm gonna be dying, I'm gonna take spirals down with me. So make sure you guys hit that like button. Please hit that like button, hit subscribe, ding notification bell, because I'm really just making this one for you guys. If it was up to me, I'd probably still be in bed right now. And if you guys are wondering why am I making this video, it's because my bed sheets are in the wash because I sweated all over them during the whole sweating phase of the whole chills and whatever, body temperature fluctuation, whatever. My body turned into a lava golem and it started to heat all over the place. There. Anyways, let's talk about this video. Okay, my editing is 100% gonna get lazier this time because since I can't speak so loudly, I'm probably gonna cut the music and I'm probably gonna leave a lot of the ums and ahs in here because why not? I can't go through this. I need sleep and I need to go to work tomorrow. Hooray! But you know, I gotta save my voices for the meeting. So we are talking about how to crush spirals, guys. And yeah, over this short little format that we've had so far since the ban lists have kicked in, well, it's been like what two weeks ish. We're already pretty sick of spirals, and there's a good reason why. This deck is just so resilient and it just embodies a lot of old school Yu-Gi-Oh! Like a lot of not hard once per turn, and sleeper agent, the sleeper resort last resort combo is still like a easy small little package that can easily just define as a win condition on its own, but it's always paired with another win condition on the side. Now you have to handle two things at once. It's pretty problematic. So in this video we're going to be understanding what makes them so strong. We're going to break them down based off of what they do so far, and then we're going to look at hand traps. We're going to look at going first sides and going second sides. I'm going to switch those around. I'm going to talk about going second first because breaking the board is, I guess, a bigger challenge to some people, especially decks that aren't as defined, like they need to set up their combo to get things going. Spyrals won't let you do that. Spyrals, very similar to Orcus, has very good disruption against someone. So if you're trying to do something, it's going to get disrupted most of the time unless you have a very strong main phase 1 where you are able to break a board first. And going first, it's actually pretty easy to disrupt spirals, but they are, again, resilient. Because they're resilient, they're able to push through and extend past things. But let's look at a couple of boards first that exist in the current format. And just because these boards exist doesn't mean you always lose them. But here's the most standard one, starting off with the Appaloosa Tri-Gate triple co-link with Nightmare Phoenix, keeping all the link monsters alive so that it's hard to destroy. Some people actually kind of switch it around. Some people want to put a Cerberus on there and switch up the other arrow just because it's safer, or they replace the double helix with a Cerberus so that you cannot be destroyed by battle or card effect, because Lightning Storm is a thing. Lightning Storm would take care of most of your monsters up there, so this format does require people to be a bit more creative, a bit more flexible. But other cards in their hand, of course, they have that DD Crow that they added to their hand. Other potential that they might have. Some people opted to run Utility Wire. I am one of those in favor of the Utility Wire. You don't want to lose to a Mystic Mine. Losing to Spirals can lose to Mystic Mine is actually a pretty good counter against them, and you can bait out some of their effects because Mystic Mine is so threatening. And but by default, Spirals have 2 interactions with a Mystic Mine, so you have to be very careful. And I'm just gonna be straight up honest with you guys right now. Spirals isn't a deck that one card can automatically win you the game. You need one card to really disrupt or bait, and the other card to completely wipe their board. It's a combination of 2 cards that truly counter a spiral deck, or you prevent them from establishing their board. It's one or the other. You can't really just, oh, I'm gonna break their board. The thing is, they have an Omni Negate. You can't really break someone's board, and if they have Omni Negate, and even if you give them like a Sphere Mode or a Lava Golem, it's not, sure, you gave them something big, now answer that thing that you gave it to him. So it's not as easy as it seems, and there's a lot of powerful monsters. So this is one variant of the board where Appaloosa usually has 2 negates, Trigate as the third one, and that also banishes. And the worst thing about these boards that are being built is that they can break your board while building the board. This is pretty silly. Another variant, this is my extended version of the combo. I demonstrated it in the previous, all 3 different end boards. You guys can check out that video. I demonstrate this step by step, but this one requires you to run a Zephyros. This is like a three-step combo, 1 extra step. Before you get into the big little main monster zone area, you play with Zephyros to kind of set up the Dweller. In the weird zone, it's usually over there on the opposite side, but either way, it's somewhere there. And this is one variant that could occur where your graveyard is completely shut down as well, and the utility wire, because you got an extra search because of Zephyros. There's a lot of fun things about that one. Then if someone's actually understanding the matchup, so you're playing Pendulum and they want to completely counter you out and just like completely shut you down, then you might see people do this, where they go for a Trigate Griffin lock with the sleeper and an anti-spell. Yeah, it's possible. And then if their opening hand is pretty bad, they can still finish off with a Cerberus, Griffin, Sleeper. None of this can be Lightning Stormed off, so it's still pretty difficult if you need to use monster effects to play. But this is an opening where you only have 1 agent and 1 drones, or maybe 1 agent and 1 something else. Because remember, there's no firewall anymore, so you can't just infinitely build a U board anymore. That's just not going to be a thing. I mean, you can build a U board. I'm not saying that's not possible. It's just people don't want to do that anymore. But anyways, so to understand their strength, 95% of counters, I've already mentioned, will require a second card to break the rest of it. That's why they are so strong. 1 card counters don't work. They have an Omni Negate, usually through the form of Trigate Wizard. And pushing through most like hand traps, they can do that, and because they have very few hard ones per turn effect. I think their main hard ones per turn is coming from Double Helix, and from the Double Helix, that's the 1 card that you can usually stop, hopefully. And now with Barricade Board Blocker, it's even more difficult to prevent the double search from the Master Plan getting sent to the graveyard, adding them the field spell plus it's like a triple search, really. It's a field spell will give you another search, so it's like you get the field spell to protect your stuff from being targeted, you get yourself the quick fix, which adds you another card. So both of these cards net you a plus, like, I guess when it's sent to the graveyard, I guess it's a +1, but when these 2 cards get played, then you gain 2 more pluses, so it's a +3 when that 1 card gets sent to the graveyard. It's pretty silly. And yeah, since they don't have a lot of hard ones per turn effects, you can just blow right through hand traps most of the time, except for the ones with consequences like Ogre. And since they have a lot of non-once per turn based effects, it's a bit hard for a lot of like decks that can't keep up with this kind of play style to play in the current format. They need to go first and build up their board so their opponent can't play. But it's pretty hard for some decks, so you got to get a bit more creative. And for the deck, for the most part, it's just flexible, like a very flexible 2-card combo to 3-card extended versions of those combos. And yeah, it's pretty silly. And Appaloosa just made things probably worse for the deck. In my honest opinion, this deck is probably going to get pretty banned. Like, what's probably going to get banned? I don't know if they're going to hit Sleeper, but, you know, one way to crush Spyrals is to ban off some of their cards. So I guess one of the cards they could potentially ban is Master Plan. Just ban Master Plan, and it's the end of it. Then Spyrals is no more, I guess, because I don't think it's going to be that big of a problem when you can't really search that field spell anymore. And since that in itself would probably tank the price of Magician's Soul. But that's overall like the gist of their strength. It's just that they're so resilient. And I guess one more thing to add is that even the monsters that they don't really want to use, they should be wanting to use them more, which is the Agent and Tough. Agent and Tough, they're really useful for the grind game. Like, they don't really get summoned very often, so even if you crack their entire board, everything gets destroyed, they can still beat you with those cards, because, well, Super Agent's free summoning for instance, and gets to check your top deck, and Tough can pop any card on the field, and they're 19 beat sticks. Just stat-wise, they're just decent monsters. They're, like, if that was a top deck, I wouldn't mind it as a top deck. It's just that good. All these monsters are just free checks, free whatever. And of course, the worst part of the deck is they get to wreck your top deck. Wrecking someone's top deck always makes someone salty. That's why a lot of people are super upset about it, especially with drones. Like, you know someone's not going to make a comeback. You know what deck they're playing. You know the cards that you want to counter the moment you see them. So that's why they're pretty powerful. I guess we can go into hand traps. I actually have 2 pages of hand traps, but just again, remember, there's no one card hand trap that handles the whole thing. It needs to be a hand trap paired with something else. But let's talk about one of the more effective ones. We have Drone Lockbird. Everyone should be citing 3 copies of this. If not, they should probably be at least be maining 2 to 3 copies of this, just simply because of how the format is dominating. Because there's so many search-based decks now. Thunder Dragons are gone, so the only way to have Thunder Dragon on the field is Drone Lockbird. And Drone Lockbird disables the searchers, which therefore cuts the entire combo down. So you're going to be dealing with a much easier board. Their counter to that would be Call by the Grave in your card. Not all decks running Call by the Grave, not Spiral decks anyways, so you might be able to shut them down for the turn, but typically some people, or in fact most people, would have Call by the Grave just to handle the Drone Lockbird. I've played a mirror match, I played a couple mirror matches of Spyrals, and Drone Lockbird doesn't necessarily win you the game. I opened with all 3 copies, but I had no follow-up. You can get like agent beatdown to death because they're so strong. They get to check your deck, and they get to mess you up. So they know what's coming up, and having that like knowledge to a very skilled player, you're just not gonna have a good time. They know how to counter you. They know the tempo of the game the moment they check your deck. So there's that. Next, we have Psyframe Gear Gamma. Gamma can destroy the double helix, which I think is pretty good, and ultimately might even prevent an Appaloosa from showing up, because making Appaloosa is pretty costly. It does require you the 4 monsters, and if you actually destroy some of their monsters along the way, they might not have enough material to keep pushing up. Now, yes, keep in mind when they do the combo, they usually have about 3 to 4 cards left in their hand, and if any of those are Monster Reborn, Appaloosa is still going to happen. But Gamma's pretty useful if you want to keep yourself alive. Your opponent's going to use like a Dweller on you. You can definitely use Gamma on that. Gamma, you can break a part of the board that's still being established, which is a bit of a combo negator. Just time it to your own liking. Luckily, Gamma is not a card that can be called by the grave, so it does give you that option. And well, next up, DD Crow. I kind of want to talk about this one because a lot of the Spiral players, they main deck this card because it can be searched with Recital Starling. Now, with that in mind, the Recital Starling, yeah, it will boost the Appaloosa, or boost whatever. Usually the boost is more or less insignificant, but the thing about it is that the trap, Spiral Mission Rescue, remember that it is a trap that can activate in the graveyard, so being a trap, it is spell speed 2, and being spell speed 2, it can be chained to, so DD Crow should not be proactively used. Be patient. We've seen mistakes on live matches before where a player just tries to preemptively crow away the rescue or whatever rescue's target was, but failed to realize, oh yeah, they can just chain rescue and just target the card and summon it out, and wasted, gave themselves a pure minus right there. Yeah, it's gonna cost them pretty heavily if that happens. So that's something to keep in mind, is that DD Crow, be patient, wait for them to have a target. Yeah, it's pretty key. But if you do get to banish something, hit the master plan or hit the quick fix early in the combo phase. Later in the combo phase, it will have a lot less impact. In fact, the goal of quick fix, by the time you summon him the second time out of the graveyard, it's already done its job. It's it's mainly there just so that you can get the last resort out. And like, even if you don't get the last resort, it's not too bad of a thing because your board is so dense already, and hitting master plan early will prevent them from searching that many rescues. Or maybe you even want to hit you could potentially even hit the double helix. The thing is, some people can make a second one because they run 2 copies, so keep that in mind. But if you hit an early master plan, like the moment they dump it into the graveyard and they want to try to revive it, that's a pretty good timing, because you might actually cut the entire combo short. Like they go Magician's Soul, dump the master plan, and now before they get a chance to throw the card into the graveyard, the rescue that they have, or the summon out like quick fix or whatever, that's your chance to crow away the master plan, because then it becomes very, very, very awkward for them, because they have nothing to revive anymore. It's struggling for them for the combo phase, and you might actually be able to skip their turn because of it. But timing is key. Ghost, Ogre, and Snow Rabbit. Two ideal targets. One is Double Helix, and the other Spiral Resort. Because Resort, you kind of want it to go to the graveyard, because if you're able to pop the Resort, you don't have to deal with a sleeper most cases, unless they already open with the sleeper. Then I'm sorry, this is a bit of a gamble. But the Double Helix, you force them to add a card to their hand rather than summon onto the field, which is pretty big, because if Double Helix successfully calls the card, which is 100% of the time it's going to be successful, you take away a Link 2 body plus another monster, and that monster is usually Master Plan or Quick Fix, or if they're going to kill you, they're going to go for a Tough or something like that. That's 3 materials worth of, material, Link material, monster material that they can use to kill you, and just Ghost Ogre them stops that. It might force them to actually search something else, either an agent or sleeper. So it changes game plans, and you might even survive. And you definitely don't have a big board to answer to anymore. Next, we have Impermanence. I like this card. Remember, Spiral Resort prevents you from targeting Spiral cards. That effect always blows my mind. About the single-handedly became one of the best field spells. That's why it's still limited. If that card wasn't limited, I swear a lot of people would just quit Yu-Gi-Oh, because this is not Yu-Gi-Oh, this is just Spiral O. And Impermanence. Once they have that whole board established, we're looking at the standard typical board. I've got hit by Impermanence a few times, and the most struggling times is usually when I get hit by they target the Tri-Gate. They just turn off the Tri-Gate, and it's pretty painful. Or Tri-Gate's trying to, or Appaloosa trying to negate something, Tri-Gate just intercepts, and then Impermanence kind of lands its mark, and it becomes pretty painful. But usually they use it to turn off Tri-Gate and then follow up with an evenly match, because Spiral only has one Omni Negate, and aside from that, there's not a lot of spell trap based negation. That evenly match will wipe the board, leaving only a one unprotected sleeper. And if you kill that sleeper, it does not summon out an agent, because nothing else was destroyed on their own side of the field, which is why Impermanence is still a highly valued card. I would not waste it on trying to negate something like a simple search, unless you know you can disrupt the entire combo. And knowing that your opponent has that many more cards, like one Monster Reborn, and the whole thing is over. Like the whole thing just comes up back, because they're not hard once per turn. So it's infinite Impermanence. Kind of an iffy one, but it's more for like answering an end board rather than disrupt. That's just my opinion on how it's used and what's most effective, which is usually paired with an evenly matched or paired with a mind control. And other forms of hand traps, we have Nibiru. Nibiru, I don't know. Some people praise it, some people don't. But you have to use it to break pre-Appaloosa board. Now, it's pretty common for them to go into 6 summons before they go into the Appaloosa, because they use the first 2 goes into the Barricade board blocker, so that's 3, and then the next 2 goes into the Double Helix, and that's 6. So you can smash the board now. The problem if you smash the board here is that they have Grave Revival cards that can keep going, and if you smash the Double Helix before you use the effect, it can use its effect when it gets revived, and it'll just keep going and extend into a much further well, not like the same territory, but it's a mini board, like, and sleeper combo is very likely still going to happen through that. And if you can break through a sleeper and that big Nibiru token that you gave them, then yeah, maybe consider Nibiru if your deck is capable of eating that. Then there's Ash Blossom Joyous Spring. This one is a bit of an iffy one. A lot of players seem to misplay this card against this deck because they time it wrong. It's very hard to use it right because there's so many times that they search, and you have to, well, not waste it on something that is not hard once per turn, because they'll just revive it and search the same card again. It's difficult. But save it for the Double Helix. That's hard once per turn. Or you can stop the Resort from searching out the Sleeper. I think that's a pretty big one. You don't want them to deal with a sleeper. Like, the board itself is just 3 negates by default if they go full. Like, if they go full negate, like the little Tri-Gate Appaloosa, there's 3 negates. And if you get rid of 1 card, the whole board breaks. So it's not even that difficult of a board to break, and some people just OTK right through it, especially you dinosaur players. I'm looking at you guys. You guys have some of the best matchups against Spyrals. And Ash Blossom, if you waste it on something as trivial as like I don't know, say quick fix, they'll just revive quick fix and dig the same card again, and who knows. Remember, you don't want to burn out your entire hand to the point where Spyrals can see you as a simplified game state, because if you do that, it just sucks for you only, because Spyrals, they're really good at maintaining their hand size, you know, +9, whatever. That's what their board is made of. They define that. And then there's also Effect Veiler. Now remember, Veiler is not really there to hit stuff like any of the Spiral cards, because it's going to be hard to target them while Resort is still live. But you can stop stuff like Dugares. Like, I play Dugares. Some people play Dugares because Dugares can act as a monster reborn from the grave, sacrificing their main phase for the next turn, which is, I think, is actually pretty smart. Anyone who plays Armageddon Knight can typically do so, but if they don't have space, they don't run it. But yeah, you can stop Dugares, stop the very first quick fix summon, because if you stop the very first quick fix, they did not fetch something to revive something. Unless they already had it in their hand. And like, again, a lot of it is a bit of a gamble. Other things that you can stop if they go into Curious to extend because the hand sucks. Disrupt that. If you notice that there's nothing else in the graveyard, the turn's over. Like, that's it. You can stop the Griffin combo from adding stuff like Anti-Spell Fragrance. That's a big one. And yeah, you're using it to stop like niche plays. So I'm not sure if I'm a big fan of Veiler. You have to use it like super early, or you have to use it on some of the more niche items, because Resort's just not gonna let you target anything. It's gonna be just difficult. And finally, there's D-Shifter. If your deck is capable of running D-Shifter, run D-Shifter. Just D-Shifter someone so that becomes a bit of a turn skip. They can't play without their graveyard. And in other words, they're just kind of like the new Orchest. They just can't handle not playing their graveyard. If everything is banished, it's just awful for them. So yeah, there's that, and that kind of sums it up for hand traps, for me anyways. If there's any other way that you guys want to use hand traps, just leave it down in the comment section. Okay, now we go into board breaking going second. Board breaking going second, if you can make a Borload Dragon, it's one of the more difficult monsters for a Spiral deck to deal with. Most of their stuff targets, most of their stuff is by a monster effect, unless they run Utility Wire, then yeah, or they have Ningirzu in their extra deck, then okay, fine, you got me. But otherwise, it's pretty hard for them to break, and it's bigger than most of their cards, so you're usually in a good spot. And yeah, Sleeper can't target this card, so that's always a big win. But okay, looking into the board breaking cards, all these cards must have one card that can be super impactful. Since you let your opponent build up something, these cards have to be able to break them. So starting off with Lava Golem. This one's a bit obvious. Eat the Appaloosa and Sleeper. Sleeper has to be eaten regardless. If you have like a Kaiju, kill the Sleeper. I think that's a bigger problem. Unless destruction isn't your issue, then kill the Appaloosa. Don't worry, I'm fine. I'm just choking to death in my own dryness. And okay, so if you have Sphere Mode, you can hit their Tri-Gate as well. The only interaction they'll have left is DD Crow, which is not a big problem. And if you can play with just special summoning, then yeah, go for it. Keep in mind that they do have 4 other cards. They could have other hand traps in there. If you're able to play past that, it shouldn't be as bad. Spyrals is a deck that just expends most of their gas right away in the beginning, so the only thing left for them to grind with would be their agents, but they're not weak, so they kind of still have a mid-range game that they can still play. Next, Evenly Matched. After you bait out their Tri-Gate, the only thing that would be left standing is Sleeper. I think Lava Golem, Evenly Matched, they are probably some of the most effective ways of one card answering to most of Spyral's biggest threats. And yeah, that's what do you want me to say with evenly match? But evenly match only works after Tri-Gate is baited, because that's 100% going to be their priority to negate. That's why evenly match is kind of going up in price. It's because it's really effective against Spirals, and I guess a lot of more of the current decks that leave a lot of stuff on the field. Next, there's Mind Control. Mind Control target Appaloosa, because if you target Appaloosa, it would break the Tri-Gate, so the Tri-Gate wouldn't even be able to negate. So the Tri-Gate is always going to negate. If it doesn't, it's a bit strange, I would say, that it didn't negate, because you still broke it. And if you took the Appaloosa, you don't even have to worry about the sleeper anymore. In other words, Mind Control, target it, and then if you bait something else first, then Mind Control, now you don't even have to worry about the sleeper. Build your board accordingly, because you are no longer under the threat of any of the interactions left. That's why it's great. Alright? And that's why Mind Control is extremely powerful. You Mind Control bait, then switch to an evenly match, you will wipe the entire board clean off. It's that good. I've experienced it firsthand, and it's pretty brutal. If you're playing against like Infernoids, their imagination will go off, and you will basically just lose your entire board fairly quickly. It was quite silly. And then there's also Mystic Mind, another win button. You can choose to side this one if you want to or not. Of course, we still have it at full strength. And it's a win button, it's a bait. It's, again, every single card that's on this list have been proven to be effective to some degree. Especially the top four, because I ate those 4 cards, and I did lose those games that I did eat those. So I don't know, I'm just giving you guys first-hand experience. And these are the ones where I built some of the nastiest boards. And, yeah. And Mystic Mind, did I lose to a deck out? I didn't. I just got murdered. Because they bought him enough time, and my board was getting picked apart piece by piece because of my Mystic Mind. So that was pretty brutal. And then finally, there is Super Poly. And Super Poly needs one more card to out, because Super Poly would only kill off 3 of your Link monsters. It's going to kill off 100% the Appaloosa is gone, the Tri-Gate's probably gone, and likely, if they're worried about Utility Wire, they'll take out your double Helix as well. So then they'll have Armaduke. Armaduke is, I guess, pretty smart to just have him in your extra deck just so that you can Super Poly him out. Armaduke is pretty big, 3,000 attack, but just don't expect him to do anything because the sleeper chunk is still there. The sleeper last resort is still a functional piece of the board that can sufficiently win games on its own. So you need another out, which would either be a Kaiju, a Book of Eclipse, something along those lines that just doesn't target, can get rid of something. Those would be your best bet. Super Poly with a Book of Eclipse. That's a 3-card out though. So your other 3 cards, if you're able to combo with 3 cards with, I guess you still have your normal summon, so you're still able to do something. Then yeah, you can probably win. Again, once you break the Spiral board, they have a mid-range game, and if you're advancing the game state to the point that they can't keep up, like a 1900 beat stick isn't gonna be enough, and destruction is, well, say you have better timing than them, say with like IP Masquerena, because you can go to a Unicorn and whatnot, spin the stuff back into their deck, then yeah, you can pretty much win the game from there. It's not too hard. But those are some of the more effective board breaking. So if you guys are considering beating Spyrals and you're not using these cards, I highly recommend you guys give it a try. There's a lot of other options as well, but I find that these are probably some of the most effective ones right now. Yeah. So what about going first? If you're going to decide going first against Spyrals, how do you cancel Spyrals? Well, hashtag Spyrals is over party. First off, just use Solemn Brigades, counter traps. I played against a Satellar Knight, and I lost that game. I got counter trapped down to nothing, and then I died. Yeah, so counter traps are still very effective because we are still reliant on just summoning mechanics to build the board. Now, innately, we have super agent that can bait out stuff like Solemn, but you have a full back row, then it's a lot harder. You might have noticed I'm not recommending Floodgates because of the same reason of Tough and Super Agent able to clear them for free. Yeah, that's why even against a sub-terror player with a full back row, clearing their entire back row is not that hard. And because we're immune to there can be only one, all our stuff is different types. We have spellcasters, we have warriors, we have a fiend. And then just to pop your stuff, we have more fiends. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff we can do. It's pretty silly. And the amount of options we have fairies, like, yeah, there can be only one. That's why you're not seeing as much of that going on. And we have machines as well. So overall, I don't know if you're going to be enjoying that. And we have like back row removal too. And a lot of it's not really destructive either. But counter traps, disrupting the summons is pretty good. Like, I even thought about the card Get Out, because at some point in the combo you put out 2 link monsters, and that's literally spinning away four materials worth of stuff. And Inspector Border, just turning off effects. If you turn off the effects, they can't search. Counter to that, they can stall. They have equip cards, they can stall, and if you can't break their stall, if you don't have back row removal, then I don't recommend using an Inspector Border. Next, there's Abyss Dweller. Just disable the graveyard. They do so much graveyard banishing, and one of the counters to that would be like they gamma you. All right, and oh yeah, going first, yeah, you can still do Mystic Mine. If you have a way to remove the monster off of your side of the field when they summon their first monster, then it's effective. If you have some sort of tribute-based cost, or you have like a Lilith or something along those lines, just use it, get rid of your monster, and leave the Mystic Mine up. It's basically the same as Inspector Border. They just can't activate any more monster effects. It's pretty good. Yeah, they can just lose from that, because if they don't have any spell trap removal outs, and typically they don't really put very many, they don't put in Twin Twisters in if they don't deem you as a Mystic Mine based deck, or because like most Floodgates just don't really work. Naturally, they have Tough and Super Agent to deal with back row, so this Mystic Mine can simply win you the game. And there's also Artifact Scythe and Sanctum, just shutting down the extra deck access. It could lead to a turn skip, but what I mean by that is that to develop the combo, they need to put the quick fix back into the graveyard as one of their discard outlets. And the way that they do that is so that they link it off, or they Xyz with it, or whatever they do with it, they use it as a monster material to develop another monster. If they can't develop the extra monster, they can't put it into the graveyard. Can't put it into the graveyard, then they can't discard the thing that they're searching to keep extending their combo. Technically they can, but they have to be very careful, because they're using a nightmare package to do so, and it could actually mess up their zones if they burn out their extra deck monsters. They have a limited extra deck space, but still one of the more flexible ones compared to recent days. But yeah, that's an option. But Scythe, turning it off completely, don't have to worry about the Appaloosa. The board is going to be much weaker, but you will still likely going to have to answer to a sleeper. The sleeper combo is just so easy to build up, especially when they have access to the quick fix. Once they get to that quick fix, they use the car, revive the quick fix, get the piece, and put the quick fix away somehow. I guess it's hard if they're locked in, but they can still technically do it, and they'll still have the sleeper combo. So that's something to keep in mind, and these would be some things I would recommend stopping them from building up their board and just completely trampling them on the turn after. Alright guys, I finally made it to the end of this video. I spent a long time, put a lot of my personal experience into this. I thought about, technically you can also put Call by the Grave in here, but again, it suffers from the same stuff as, oh, it's going to get blown up by a Tough or a Super Agent. You know, the thing that you least likely, they're not going to summon those cards. Yeah, they're going to summon those cards once you put back row onto the field, because now it becomes free and I get a free check. And that free check means I don't need to use my drones to get the top deck. And that makes it all the more better for me, so that I can be a little more flexible with my combos. And alright guys, that's all I got for this video. If you guys enjoyed this video, hit that thumbs up button. Hit that thumbs up button for my health, guys. It's really hard to do this video while feeling like this, and I just want to cough. I don't know how many like outtakes I have. I probably have 40, 50 outtakes just because I coughed in the middle of a line. Some of them I just didn't care. I just kept on going. But anyways, thanks for watching, guys. Thanks for tuning into MST.TV, and yeah, hit thumbs up, hit subscribe, ding notification bell. Appreciate you all. You might seem a bit more nichey this week because I gotta go back to work, and yeah, I can tell you guys a funny story, a crazy story actually. This is a crazy outro, but I slept so much from like Wednesday to Saturday. Saturday was just awful because I couldn't sleep anymore. And because I couldn't sleep anymore, I kept on waking up at midnight, like exact. I turn on my iPad. iPad says, "Hey, it's midnight." I'm like, okay. So I'm like, I'll go to the kitchen. But then by the time I got to the kitchen, I somehow wake up back in my bed. So I must have somehow dozed off. But I never closed my eyes. So I just end up still being in the bed. I hit the iPad again. I'm like, oh, should have been like 5 minutes later. Hit the button, still midnight, and my body just can't go back to sleep. And so I decided to, like, you know what? It's kind of strange. It's never this quiet before. You know how there's like ambient noise. So then it starts being suspicious. But I'm like, whatever. I'll just pick up my spiral deck. I'm just going to make combos with it, and maybe work on this video. And then I wake up again, or quote unquote wake up again. I click on the iPad again. It's still midnight. I'm like, what the hell's going on? So I decided to do some work on my own wedding. Like, work on the guest list stuff, and try to see what else I need, like photographer and all that stuff. And then I wake up again. I spent like an hour or something, and this cycle repeated 5-6 times. And then this time it's different because this time there's noise when I woke up, and I checked the clock and I'm like, it's 10 p.m. It wasn't even midnight. It was 10 p.m. I'm like, oh my god, this is what it must feel like when you're in solitary confinement, when you're alone for this long. It just drives you nuts. I can understand why, and I'm like, oh my god. So then I actually stayed up for the next 3 hours, just to burn time. And yeah, anyways, that's my crazy story of my I guess I was hallucinating, because I slept so much I can't go back to sleep, and I tried to force myself to sleep. Didn't work. I just laid there very still, and then my thoughts just wandered off. And that's the story of Tombox last week on Saturday. Anyways, I'll see you guys in the next one.